Hello, welcome back. This is Tina. In this video, we are going to cover the filters, which is the core of Spring Security. First, let's take a look at why Spring Security choose to use servlet filters. Here, we need to know a little bit about the background of Spring-based web application, no matter we are using Spring Boot or not. Okay, because Spring-based web application, the core is Spring Web MVC, and inside those kind of applications, there is essential one main servlet, which is dispatcher servlet, only one. And this dispatcher servlet will handle all the requests. No matter what kind of request comes to your Spring Web application, it will all go to dispatcher servlet. This servlet only one. And this dispatcher servlet will based on the handler mapping and redirects the incoming request to the appropriate controllers or REST controllers. Okay. And as we know, inside the dispatcher servlet, there's no built-in security features because this dispatcher servlet, that's not the task of it, doesn't include any built-in security features. What it does is for only MVC part, when the request comes, I'll based on the handler mapping and find the URL and redirect to the methods in the correct controllers. And if we are building a classic applications, it will later on consult the view resolver to find the template for us. Okay, that is dispatcher servlet do. So no built-in security features. And one way we can do is, suppose we are trying to do a basic authentication, then we're gonna have a basic authentication headers, right? So we can handle raw HTTP basic authentication headers directly inside our controllers. Yes, you can do it, but not ideal because for every controller, you need to do the same thing. So ideally, authentication and authorization should occur before requests reach to our controllers. Before it reach to our controllers, our authentication and authorization is done. Okay, because once they reach my controllers, that means they have the permission to do the tasks or actions. And in Java web application or environment, this can be achieved by simply implementing filters in front of your servlet. Filter is designed to do this kind of task, okay? By creating a security filter and configuring it in our Tomcat or any servlet containers, you can intercept every incoming HTTP request before reach to the servlet. This servlet in Spring-based web application is the dispatcher servlet. Here's diagram. If we implement the security filter, when the browser will make a request to this URL, it will go before it go to our controllers. It first will go to the filters. The filter can do what? Authentication and can do authorization. If they fail for authentication part, we will say 401 unauthorized. If fail on the authorization part, we will say 403 forbidden. And if they pass this request pass authentication and pass authorization, will continue to the servlet. The servlet is our dispatcher servlet. Dispatcher servlet eventually will redirect the request to REST controller or controller based on our application. So this is naturally happened because the filter is going to be executed before the servlet. Okay. And we can actually achieve by using a naive, which is no using Spring Security, right? So here we can have our filter, which extends on HTTP filter. And in the HTTP filter, have a do filter method we have to implement. Then what we can do? We can do is first, from the request, we get what? We get a username, password, okay? And then we check if the username password is match our database. And if it doesn't match, then we will do what? Authorize and return, okay? And then after it passes the authentication, we will do authorization. If it has permission to do something, and if not, we return forbidden. okay? And if we pass authentication and authorization, we just continue to where? Continue to the dispatcher servlet of the Spring, and the Spring will also delegate to REST controller or controllers, okay? And this is the kind of like a pseudocode, doesn't work, okay? The features are all like a fake here, just to give you ideas. If we use our own filter, we can still achieve, okay? And think about if we do like this way, what's going to happen? Eventually, this one, as the project become larger, you may feel this file become a giant monster, because now today your authentication only support for form login. Later on, you want to support for basic HTTP basic access authentication, or you want to support OAuth. And this file gonna be larger and larger. And for authorization, so far you only support for request matcher, and later on you want to support for annotation based. So eventually this file can be a giant monster. How to solve the problem? And this is, we can do what? We can split this one giant monster into different filters. And we can go through login method filter, and if it's using form, we can extract username password from request parameters, right? And then we can go to authentication filter to check the username password, and then we can go to the authorization filter to check the permission. Then we can hit your servlet. So in this case, we split our one giant filter into different filters, and different filters will do different responsibilities, right? So entire things is going to be the concept is called a filter chain, okay? We go through filters one by one, and that is also happened inside the Spring security. This right image shows when the client request comes, it may not go through one filter. It will go through a chain of filters from filter 0 to filter 2 before hit your servlet. And after servlet done, it can also go back to the filters. If you are not familiar with the filter, you may take a look at a book called Header First, Servlets and GSP or something. I couldn't remember. It have a good explanation about the servlet and filters, how it works, okay? But here I'm not going deep. So the client send a request to the application, and the container will create a filter chain based on your filter is being configured. If we are talking about the raw filters, it's based on the URL, how you configured. And when the request comes, it's going to through the filter chain, which is created by the container, and which contains the filter instance and servlets that should process the HTTP servlet request based on path of a URL. You have annotation called the web filter to configure, okay? In Spring MVC, the servlet is an instance of dispatcher servlet we already covered, which means here this servlet is a dispatcher servlet, because in Spring MVC application, only one servlet, dispatcher servlet. And here is the pseudocode, okay? Kind of like the method you will overwrite when we extend on HTTP filter, okay, which do filter, and here you're gonna have do something before the rest of application. Suppose this one is for the filter 0, you will do something before the rest, and once you do chain.do filter, it will pass the request to filter 1, and then pass the request to filter 2, and after finish, it's gonna go back, and also if we have any code after the chain.do filter, it will also execute when it go back, okay? Now let's take a look at a simple project, which is take a look at observe Spring Security's default security filter chain, okay? I'm going to use IntelliJ to create a new project, and for this project I'm going to put on my desktop. Sorry, I didn't set up before you started the video. So here desktop, and I'm going to call folder called the Spring Security, okay, Spring Security. And I will security demo 1. Okay, we may have multiple demos. I'll use Lombok DevTools, and I'm going to use web, and I'm going to use security, Spring Security, and later on I needed to use Spring Data JPA, so I'm going to just add it here, okay? And I'm going to use my SQL driver. If you we don't let's skip this one, okay? Let's skip the I can add it later, okay? So the thing I selected is a Spring Web, Lombok, DevTools, Web, and Security, and create this window and close. And now let's take let's write a simple demo first. I will add a model. Then the model will have a product. Okay, product. Do you think if I use if I use the settings, I think people like the dark. Okay, let's use dark. Okay, kind of like a more professional. Okay, private int ID, private name, private let's using double price. Okay, let's just do like this way. And here I'm going to using a data, and I'm going to write I'm going to just add another one, which is called the all argument constructor. Okay, and I'm going to do is add a package called controller, and then I'm going to create a Java class called the product controller. And then I'm going to use a REST controller here, and here I'm going to use a request mapping, which is for products. By doing that, for all the requests in current controller, I don't need to add a /product. Then I'm going to use get mappings. How about get mapping? And public request get products, and I'm going to create a list of products. I can just do like this way. Return list.off. Okay, then here I'm going to hard code it a few product. Okay, because this is not what we the main part of the course. Okay, of Spring Security. I'm going to HP like 99, and I'm going to just add a new one, another one. Okay, to DEL 88. Okay, like this way. Okay, I'll return have a semicolon. So now I'm going to start the application. Okay, and you will see if I want to make a request to this one in the browser. Let's see what's going to happen. Okay, so I'm going to go to the browser. I'm going to make a call to localhost 8080 and go to products. Okay, and you will see there's a form, but as you can see from the code, I just have a model and a controller. Why is this form comes? Okay, this is because inside the POM, when I created this project, and I had this dependency, which is Spring Security. Once you have this dependency added, naturally, okay, by default, all the requests go to our server side. Must be authenticated. That's why it has a form login. And default username is user. And default password is this one. It's going to is a UUID automatically generated, and once you do, you will see these products. Okay, so this is the first this is the first test of Spring Spring Security. Once you add this Spring Security, this dependency into your project, by default, all the requests has to be authenticated. Now, we want to take a look at the default security chain, right? So we have to do is we have to add a login level. Okay, I'm going to config, which is here. You can remove this one, or not login level.org.spring and security equals TRACE. Okay, Then I'll restart rebuild the application. Let's see. Guys, can you take a look at it here? This line, and see here, it has a default security filter chain, and which has a bunch of them. We are secure request with what? Disable encoder URL, web async, security context holder filter. We're going to deal with this one in the future. Header writer, CSRF, we will disable this one later. Logout we don't do because we don't use what's the thing? We don't use we will build a JWT in the future. Okay, so we don't use logout, the default ones. Okay. Username password authentication filter. Okay, and for login, this one is just now we see the form, right? The username password form. This is generated by this one. Default logout page generated. Basic authentication. This is used to support HTTP basic access authentication and others. Okay, there's so many. Okay, total is 15 around something. And you can see here the authorization filter by default is also the last. This is the test of default security filter chain. So inside the Spring Security, we don't just go over one filter like this giant one. Instead, we'll go over a bunch of security filters, Servlet filters, and this is called a filter chain. Okay, multiple, not only one. And this slide is just a copy of that one, default security filter chain. Okay, so let me swap. Okay. The Spring Security does not just install one filter, instead install a whole filter chain consisting of 15 probably different filters. Okay, when HTTP comes, it will go through all those 15 filters before our request finally hits our RC controllers or controller. Okay, and the order is important because the filter is going to be started at the top of the list and going down one by one. Okay, and the author, definitely if it's not all the doesn't matter, we can go the authorization filter. If the authorization filter is on the top, then it makes sense, right? And you haven't logged in. And now let's take a look at delegating filter proxy. So there's a problem. What's the problem? As we know, if we have a class which extends HTTP filter, then this class is going to be instantiated by the Tomcat because the Tomcat recognizes HTTP filter, and the Tomcat will instantiate and know is the filter. But suppose later on, because when we are writing our RESTful application using Spring Boot, okay, Spring Boot based web application, or Spring MVC based, okay, we need to use dependency injection. And if we extend on the HTTP filter, how Tomcat know which Spring bean to be injected, right? Tomcat don't know the Spring bean. Okay, only Spring knows Spring bean, and that is a problem, which means it has a gap between Tomcat filter instance and our Spring beans. So Spring solve it using something called a delegating filter proxy. Okay, Spring provides a filter implementation named delegating filter proxy that allows bridging between the servlet containers lifecycle, which is Tomcat, okay, and the Spring's application context. You can think application context of Spring is just a container of all the Spring managed beans, which is Spring managed objects, okay, which those objects created by Spring. And this is a bridge because Tomcat don't know anything about Spring beans, okay, and we need to have something which is bridging them, and that is a delegating filter proxy do. And delegating proxy is a part of the Spring security. Okay, the servlet container allows register filter instances by using its own standards, which is extends HTTP filter, but it is not aware of Spring defined bean. You can register delegating filter proxy through the standard servlet container mechanism by delegating all of work to a Spring filter bin that implements filters. Okay, so the code going to be look like this way. Inside delegating filter proxy, it's going to delegate to a bin filter 0. The code going to be like a get filter bins, and you give some bin name. Okay, and then this delegate will delegate task to the rest, okay, to this filter. Okay, so by doing that, it lazily get a filter that was registered as a Spring bin. Okay, and second, you can delegate the work to the Spring bins instead of doesn't necessary to be the Tomcat known filter. Okay, and another benefit of the delegating filter proxy, it allows delaying looking up filter bin instance. This is because the filter instance before the container is it because the container needs to register the filter instance before the container can start up. Okay, so in order for the container to start application, we have to make sure all the filters instance are ready, are registered. Okay, but Spring usually or typically use a context loader listener to load the Spring bins, right? Which is not done until after the filter instance needed to be registered. Okay, so this is a lazy loading. Okay, and for this bin 0, okay, bin filter 0, which is this filter here, it's not only one filter. Okay, instead it's gonna be a chain. Okay, so Spring Security Servlet supported is contained within FilterChain proxy, which is this one. When the request comes, it goes to Spring Security's delegating filter proxy. Delegating filter proxy will delegate the work to FilterChain proxy. And the FilterChain proxy is a special filter provided by Spring Security that allows delegating to many filter instances through security filter chain. Okay, like a tongue twister. Okay, so the request, this filter chain proxy itself also doesn't do actually authentication and authorization, and it will delegate the work to what? To a collection. And it is called a security filter chain. This security filter chain is going to contain a bunch of the filters. Okay. And this filter chain proxy is a bin, and which is this one filter, this one, and which is this bin filter, which inside delegating filter proxy. Okay. And for us in the future, when we configure Spring Security, or when we want to deal with Spring Security, we don't deal with this part. We only deal with security filter chain part. Okay. And now let's take a look at security filter chain. Security filter chain is used by filter chain proxy to determine which Spring Security filter instance should be invoked for the current request. Here's an example. Suppose I have request comes, okay. This filter chain proxy will resolve a bunch of filters need to go through for this request, and see inside security filter chain you have a bunch of them. Okay. Like CORS, CSRF lookout of those. This entire for current request. And for Spring Security filter chain can have multiple instances. Okay, in the multiple security filter chain figure, which is this one, filter chain proxy decide which security filter chain should be used. Okay, only the first security filter chain that is matched is going to be invoked. So here we have two configurations. One is /API, and for this security filter chain, it has 1, 2, 3 filters. And we have another asterisk, which means every request, okay? And here have 4. Now, suppose, let me, do I have the pen? Suppose now my request is this one, /API, okay, /products. Products, okay. If my request is this one, what's going to happen? then it's going to match the first one, because the first one match, the first one return. Okay, it won't, even though this URL also match the second one, because it will go through one by one, right? It reach this one first, then this one gonna be being taken care. Okay, so for this request, going to 1, 2, 3 filters. If I have another request which is called users, this user, it will go through. Okay, oh, it doesn't match for this request. Okay, the request pattern is API, so I'm going to go to the next one. Next one is this one. So for this request, it's going to go through this security filter chain. So different requests, it may go through different filters based on the configuration. Okay, this is this part. Next one. The Spring security filters are inserted into the filter chain proxy with the filter chain API. So if we want to navigate or work on the filter chain of Spring security, the thing we have to do is to work on these methods. Okay, work on these methods. And with this configuration, this is okay. I only pick what? I only pick the authentication using the form login. And if we want to use other like HTTP basic, we will also configure here, which will configure for all our filters. So each one will map to be a filter. This one is for authorization part. Okay. The filters defined here can be what? Authentication, can be authorization. The filters are executed in specific order to guarantee they are invoked at the right time. Like here, this is this filter. If the order here matters, okay, we will demo in the future. For example, the filter perform authentication should be invoked before the filter perform authorization, and by default, authorization is at the last step. Okay. Now, as we mentioned earlier, we want to have a we already know Spring Security is a bunch of the Servlet filters, right? And as a user, when we use Spring Security, we can also add our own filter to the filter chain. Okay, so most of the time it works, but we may need to add our custom filter to a filter chain, like when we use a JWT, and how to validate our token. Then we have to add our own custom filter to do the Spring security filter chain. Okay, but here this task is very simple. Okay, suppose let's say we want to add a filter that get a tenant ID header and check if the current user has access to the tenant. Okay, the previous description already gave us a clue on where to add a filter, so we need to know the current user, so we add it after the authentication filter or before. It doesn't matter for us. This one is just the test. Okay, so after we add the filter, we will configure in the security filter chain here. That's how we deal with security filter chain. Now let's take a look at a code. Discard. Okay. And in the example, here use a once per request filter. This is part of Spring. Okay, we can also for this demo, we can also extend on HTTP filter. It can be interchanged for this demo. Okay, and once per request filter from them, you already see it is guaranteed to be only called once per request. Okay, but if we use HTTP filter, and you add annotation component, it can be do twice, because one instance is instantiated by the Tomcat, because HTTP servlet it's a HTTP filter. Okay, and since we also add annotation component, Spring will also initialize one, so that filter may be executed twice, and once per request filter will guarantee only one. Okay, only once per request. So now let's take a look at this one. I'm going to here write a filter, and I will do both to show you the difference. Here we are. What's the title name? Tnet filter. Okay. Then here I will extend. I will use extends. Not this one. It's not HTTP filter. Okay, And then you are going to do is add the overrides the public void do filter, this one. Okay, you have to override this one. And what's going to happen here, you will check the header if they have what, if we expect you check the header if I have this one, and if I have, I will allow access, and if not, I will say access denied. Okay, so I'm going to do is first, here is a servlet request and servlet response, and I want to get the header request. This one don't have get a header method, so I will customize this one to be HTTP servlet filter as request, HTTP servlet request, and servlet request equals. That's also another thing when we use a filter, okay, HTTP is filter, and with once per request, you don't need to do this two-step. HTTP servlet response actually not needed, okay, but usually we do as a pair. HTTP server response, okay. Now for this servlet filter request, it has a get a header, and the header we will look for ID. Okay, we are looking for this one, and you will give us a string, and which is called what's the thing, header. Okay, and I'm going to do is I just do it here. Okay, I don't write another method for contains admin. Okay, if it contains admin, everything's good. Okay, and else, okay, I'm going to do what? I'm going to throw new access denied exception denied. Okay, and if I will pass, I will go chain $do filter request and response. Okay, so pretty simple. Okay, so what happened is this one is not used. Okay, what happened is if the request when we make a request which have X tenant ID, okay, then and the value is admin which contains, you can use equal, okay, and then I will go through, which pass this checking, and if not, I will say no access. Okay, and now I need to put this filter inside the part of our Spring Security filter chain, right? To do that, now we have to have a config. Okay, and for the config, I'm going to have a security. Let's add a Spring security config. Okay, and the only thing you need to do is add the configuration. Once you add the configuration annotations in this class, you can define lots of beans, which beans is what? Spring will initialize those objects for you. And the one we are going to do is a public non-password encoder. It's called a SecurityFilterChain because we want to work on this chain. Okay, and this is the this name doesn't matter. Okay, we only care about is this one. And here is HTTP security, and we are going to return HTTP. First, I'm going to do a build, okay? Then we'll add on it. With HTTP build, it will build this chain for us. And if we want to do a test on these special headers, with what? With a browser, we cannot change the headers because when we make a request in the browser will automatically generate the headers. So we have to use another way to do test, which is we can customize our headers. So in this case, for here, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to enable what? HTTP basic. This is built-in basic authentications, and the the filter here is called basic authentication filter. I think this one will make sure this basic authentication filter is part of our security filter chain. Okay, and now let me also add the authorization, which is auth. Okay, we will cover this part later. For request matcher. Okay, we can make it a simple any request dot authenticate, which means this one talk about this is using authorization filter. And when we configure for any request that goes to my server side for this application, it must be authenticated. This is also the default case. And now we have this one configured, okay? And next we are going to do is we have a tenant filter. We want to add it, right? For the slides, what I talk about is we add it after the I think after the authorization filter I added. Oh, I added on the authorization. My bad. Okay, let me change it here. I added in the authorization filter. Okay, so this is a slide after add. How to add it? You go to your configuration and anywhere you want. Okay, I just add here because it's add authorization filter dot add filter after. Okay, and here is your filter, new tenant filter. Okay, and it's doesn't have any dependency, and here I'm going to have authorization filter dot class. I'm going to add after this one, okay, which is after this one, and in the security filter chain you will also see. So now let's test it if it works. Okay. Okay. First, I should uncomment this one first. Okay. Let me restart because I didn't configure. This is username password. Okay, so here let's take a look at how to do this one. Okay, I disable this one, then I will enable. I'm going to here using HP client, which is by default enabled inside the by default inside what's the IntelliJ. Okay, which is I'm going to make a get a request to the /products, same as what which will go here. Okay, /products, get a request, go to /products. Okay, and I'm going to give authorization, which is a basic, because here we enable the HB basic. Okay, and here we are going to use user, and the password is this one generated. Okay, and now let's see. Here, as you can see, I get everything, which is 200, right? But no problem. Now I'm going to do is before I move on, I want to set up for the username password here. Otherwise, every time I have to go to copy the username password. Okay, so here you can use Spring's username. You can use user Spring security's password equals 1234. Okay, and while we configure here, when we start application, it won't regenerate the UUID as a password. So I'm going to restart. We can also reload. Okay. So here, you see here, not generated anymore. Okay, and now let's go back. I forgot. I haven't turned on, so I just do a test. Okay, here is 1234, and as you can see, I can still get the products, right? Now I'm going to here to turn this one on, and I will reload my change, and now I go to this one. You will see 500. See here. You see an error. Okay, what's the error? Anyway, we see an error which doesn't work anymore. See here, it failed. You know, it failed. Oh, why is it failed? Let's scroll. It's too much, too long. Let's see, it failed. String contents. I have to check it now or not now. Okay, I missed one step. Here we have 3 exceptions because this header gonna be none. Header not equals none. And okay, I forgot this one. It because this is none, and it through this contents gonna be non-point exception. Okay, so actually you already see it go through. Okay, go one more time. And we expect to see access denied. Okay, what did I say? See here, access denied. Okay, and this denied is what I used here. because it look into the header, and the header I don't have this tenant. Okay, so now I will add in the header, and its value is admin. Here the value what I use is admin contains. Now I do one more time. Good, you can see it's already there, and this is how it works. And you want, you can also take a look at the filters it go through. See here, after invoking authorization filter, total is 13 filters to be invoked when we make this GET request. Okay, this is authorization filter. Then you also have a tenant filter, 13. Okay, because we add this authorization filter after this tenant filter. Okay, and you can decide which way you want to add this filter. Now let's summarize a little bit. Okay, here this one is when we configure this one, it's going to enable this authentication, basic authentication. You give username password. The username password we just now configured here. Otherwise, it's gonna generate. If you don't configure anything, it's gonna by default the username is user. The password, you take a look at the console terminal. Okay, and this authorization is to make sure all the requests goes to our controller is going to be authenticated. Very based on it's very expressive, right? And then this one is include our filter part of the Spring Security Chain, and we add after this authorization filter. Okay. Now let me write another one. Okay, I'm going to show you if I use once per request. Okay, let me add another one. Tenant. Let's use another one. Oh, tenant. Let's use the tenant filter once two. I just add another one. I don't have a good name. Sorry, guys. Okay. Here I'm going to extend not this filter. I'm going to extend on once per request filter. Okay. And with once per request filter, this is the class or interface. It's abstract class. Okay, so here I have to override this, not this one. Overrides called public do filter internal. You have to override this one. Okay, and by default here is already HTTP request, so you don't need to do like what we did here. Okay, and the request here is going to be this. This part is the same. Okay, I'm going to do the same. Okay. So here is a request. Okay, and this one is called the filter chain, and the logic is same. Suppose I do x tenant. Okay, and the only difference is I don't need to cast from servlet request to HTTP servlet. It automatically is HTTP servlet request. Okay, and then we are trying to configure this one. Okay, and I'm going to I just try dot add filter. Let's add before. Okay, new tenant filter. I will add this too, and authorization filter class. Okay, so now this time I add before, just to show you it's going to before. Okay, now let me restart the application, and the task in the two filters are exactly the same. Okay, the task. So I'm going to come clear here and start it successfully, and now I'm going to here. Okay, see, success. Okay, and let's take a look at the filters here. And see here, the last one now, the 13 out of 13, the last one is authorized filter, and our tenant filter 2 is added before that. And this is how the second one, okay, which is once per request filter. Later on, I'm going to use a once per request filter, okay, instead of HTTP filter. This is the one. Now let me go back to the slide. Okay, so here we talked about already. Let me swap the presentation. Okay, here laser. Okay, and we add on the presentation, and here this is how to do it. Okay, this one configure form login, and I'm no longer use form login, so I didn't put it there. Okay, if you use a form login, you're gonna use the username password authentication filter. Okay, and this is the HTTP to do the authorization, okay, to do the request. And here, let's take a look a little bit about some of the filters. Basic authentication filter is once you configure HTTP basic, okay, this one will add the basic authentication filter into your filter chain, okay. This one and use authorization and the one we already demoed, okay. If I using what's thing, if you add this form login, it's going to use username password authentication filters, okay. You're gonna have a login page. Have a default page generated for this one login, okay. Log out, filter security interceptor. And this will be used to process the roles. Has a role, oh, not has permission, it should have has authority, okay, which is this one, authority, this one. And it's going to also deal with the method level. You can directly write has role, has authority to do that, okay. Anyway, that's it for this section, and we covered about the core of the Spring Security, which is a bunch of filters. We also covered we can write our own customer filter to insert as part of the filter chain, okay. So hope you understand, and I will see you later. Bye bye.